Hey everybody, it's the Herb Guy with the Elder Herb Shop, and welcome back to Where Science Meets Nature, a channel where we discuss the medicinal value of plants and other natural substances found in nature all around us, with a little bit of science thrown in because we can. Today, I'd like to talk about natural ways to clean and disinfect your home without having to buy any of those harmful chemicals. Now, as you can see here, I've gathered together some spices, some lemon juice, and then some other compounds, such as plant resins, and incense, white sage, and a place to burn it. And we're going to discuss all of these things, how you can use them, the benefits behind them, why you should use them over some of the other chemicals. We'll throw some science in. It's a really lengthy video, so I hope you take the time to watch the whole thing. And if you really like it and think it's very beneficial, share it with somebody. Could help them too. Hang on just a moment, we'll get right into it. Alright, so we're back to the first part of the video that we're going to cover today, and that's herbs and spices that have antimicrobial action. Now, when I use the term antimicrobial, I mean bacteria, viruses, fungi. That's typically what antimicrobial means. We're going to start with cinnamon. Most people have cinnamon. If you don't have cinnamon, it's relatively inexpensive. You can get it at Walmart. Of course, you could buy it from us, as you can see here. The one thing they won't have on Walmart is all the information and what it's good for. Now, the reason why I picked cinnamon is because cinnamon has some really strong antimicrobial, antifungal, and antibacterial activities, and antiviral. It helps to dissolve the shells that develop around viruses and bacteria to make it go away and not reproduce as easy. Cloves is another really good one. I don't know if you have cloves, whole cloves, clove powder. It's also really good as a antimicrobial. You can put it in make a tea out of it and use it as a surface cleaner. It's really powerful. It has more indications on our label. Ginger root is more than just for nausea. It also has some antimicrobial, antiviral properties. It has a nice spicy flavor. Some people have a lot of it. Some people really love it. This is one of those, you either like it or you don't. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of ginger, but I'll eat it if I'm sick because, I'd rather have a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth rather than be sick. Now, I'm going to skip over this one for right now because we're going to talk about the next three. First is oregano leaf. Now, oregano also has a lot of properties. It's antibacterial. It's antiviral. It has other things like it's been used for staph infections and gastric problems. It's a really, really potent and powerful herb. The oil is used. It's a good antiparasitic. It can be used as an antifungal. This is a very versatile plant. It's better than most in regards to virus fighting, and it's actually one of the go-tos that people use to fight viruses naturally. Rosemary is very powerful. It was used for the longest time. It was used for the longest time in hospitals as a disinfectant. They made a really strong tea, essentially, out of it, and they would use that to spray surfaces by adding just plain old lemon juice to it. Great value lemon juice. I'm sure they didn't use great value, but you know what I'm saying. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get super fancy lemon juice. You're just trying to clean a surface. And rosemary is a really good combination. You can use that as a combination with lemon juice to help clean surfaces like your counters and toilets and whatnot. It helps remove smells. It's really nice, a really nice herb, and it doesn't smell too bad. It's actually a member of the pine family, as a little side note, in case you didn't know. There's also thyme. Thyme is very powerful as well. Kind of interesting that all of the things that are in this happen to be in spaghetti and pizza, but thyme has antimicrobial, antibacterial properties. You can do the same thing with it that you do with the rosemary. You can do the same thing with any of these. You can make a really strong tea out of it and then add some lemon juice to it and use that as a surface cleaner. You could use it to clean your hands with and as a disinfectant versus using a hand sanitizer, and later on in the video we're going to discuss why you shouldn't be using hand sanitizers. Now, let's say you don't have rosemary, oregano, and thyme, but you do have Italian seasoning. That would work just as well. The reason why is because Italian seasoning has all the same herbs. It has thyme, oregano, rosemary, and basil. Now, basil is also a good antimicrobial. And if you're in a pinch and you don't have anything else to use, you can use your Italian seasoning blend or our Italian seasoning blend, and that would work really well for that part of the process that we're trying to work through right now. Sorry for the pause there. Yeah, these are really natural ways that you can get rid of viruses, bacteria, without having to have all that chemical around your house. Now, I know I used to be an exterminator, and I use chemicals when it's prudent to do so, but I certainly don't like using them in my home, especially when I have alternatives that I can use that work just as well, if not better, and they're much better for us and the environment. So we're going to stop there. We're going to go over the resins and incense that you can use that help clear the air and why you should use those over, say, Lysol spray. And give me a minute. I got to clean up this mess here, and we'll go over that. Hang on. Okay, so we're back again and got the table cleaned off. We're going to talk about what some people consider to be the fun stuff, the incense. Now, if you're talking incense, these are what most people consider incense, and that's the incense cones, which look like this. They're not very big. They're put together with herbs and other compounds to make a cone. Obviously, you light the tip and let it go. I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. And then, of course, you have your sticks, and then there's a wide variety of those. We happen to carry wildberry and some hemp and a few others that we try to keep it as natural as possible. But when it comes to stick and cones, that is actually very, very difficult to maintain. The sticks look like this. Essentially, they look like a little sparkler, a brown colored sparkler. You light the tip, you blow it out so it's no longer flaming, and then you put it in stands. When it comes to stick incense, you have several different kinds of stands. You got the wood, where you literally just take it, put it in like so, and then as it burns, the ash will fall off onto the tray, and you can dump it out, thereby negating a mess. I have some that are made of silicone, like this, where you can set the incense in the hole, let it burn, it stays straight up, and then everything falls down in the tray, which it is fairly burn proof, at least from this stuff, burn proof. And it's an easier way to burn your sticks. And then, of course, if you're one of those kind of people that likes to do a lot of them, you have something like they have soapstone. You can put 4 or 5, as many as you want. Use different aromas and do a blend. And each one of these sticks will burn roughly half hour, 45 minutes, depending on the quality of what you have. The same goes for the cones. The cones can also be burnt on like soapstone, or you can use just plain sand, crystal with sand, or heavy duty glass with sand. Sand helps to absorb the heat, and it makes it a little bit safer. There's another purpose for that sand, and we'll go over that here in a minute. So that's what we have there. And for the most part, like your myrrh and your dragon's blood, your white sage, frankincense, all of those, they have antimicrobial properties, and there is some of that in there. So if you wanted to use, say, the white sage, I use one of these kind of lighters for that, because it certainly helps to keep you from getting burnt. Light the tip until it catches on fire. Once you get a nice, decent, it'll start to glow. There'll be a little cherry right there. You can kind of see how it's red there. And there's your smoke. You put it in the stand, and you go about your business. And as long as you don't have a bunch of cats or kids or whatever knocking it over, this is a fairly safe way to go about doing it. It doesn't produce a lot of smoke, as you can see. There isn't really a whole lot of smoke coming off of there, but you'll get a lot of the fragrance and some of the properties. So, that's one way to go about doing that. Let me go set this aside real quick. Sorry about that. Okay, so the other one is you have your incense cones. Again, simple matter of lighting the end, just like you would with a stick. And the reason why I'm doing this outside is because some of these incense get rather cloying. It's a very heavy, heady smell, and I'm not a huge fan of these types of incense. These ones you'll want it to burn a little bit longer. Blow it out. Blow on it a little bit. And there you see the glow. You'll get a little bit more smoke off of that. It'll burn roughly half hour, 45 minutes. You can set it in your stand. In your sand, you can set it on your incense stand. Put it on something metal. So you could take, say, you know, like an old soup can, turn it upside down, put it on top of that. And those types of things will work to help keep from burning your house down. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one out. I'm not a huge fan of dragon's blood, but that's what that one was. So that's how you use those types of incense. And then you have the resin incense, and they are done completely differently. You have to use another source to get them lit, and the one that we currently have, and the one we're going to use and go over today, is the sand with what's called a charcoal tablet. As you can see, it has a little bowl there, and I'll show you why that's important in a minute. It's rounded on the one side. It's best to use sand. This thing will get roughly 600 to 800 degrees, so you don't want to touch it. You don't want to play with it when you're done with it, or when it's on there with your bare hands, because you're likely to get burnt. It has natural potassium nitrate, I think it is, which is saltpeter. And if you watch really close, and if I don't get burnt, sometimes you can see as it catches. This is not going to be one of those times. You just light the side, and you can kind of see the sparks there as it's spreading through. It'll actually go by itself. You get enough flame on there. And I like to do more than one side. Do 2 or 3 sides. Maybe you can hear it crackling, popping. If you're one of those impatient people, you can actually very lightly blow on the side of it. And I do mean lightly blow, because you'll get that sand all over the place, and that could be a really terrible thing. We're going to let that go for just a second, so that way it'll get started. And once it's fully started and going, we will, and right there, you can see right here where the actual coal itself is starting. And maybe you can see the pops. Yeah, I can kind of see them on the camera. It'll start going by itself. This tablet will also burn roughly half hour, 45 minutes. So we'll give that a minute to get fully engulfed, and we will continue on with the resins and how you can use those to clean out your rooms. Hang on. Alright, so it's been a couple minutes. As you can see, it is fully caught, except for right there in the tray. That is still very hot. Wouldn't recommend touching it. What I've went and done is I've gotten some of the actual resin that we have. This one is Copal resin. It's native to South America. It has a wide variety of uses, and one of its latest uses is as a bone cement. Because it's so antimicrobial, they use it to help tie broken bones together, and it prevents the bones from getting infected because of the power of it. When you do these incense, and the reason why these are more beneficial, in my opinion, than using a stick or a cone, is they throw off a ton of smoke. It only takes a few. You put on there. It'll take a minute for it to start. You put this in like a small room, like a living room or a dining room, and it will start throwing smoke relatively quickly. Now, another reason why I like these is they're fairly versatile, in that if you decide you don't like the aroma, you can easily take that part off with, say, like a spoon or a screwdriver or knife blade, you know, something that you have handy. You see how it's really bubbling up. And one of the reasons why we are doing this outside is because this will fill up a room with smoke. And there's benefits to that. You know, if you're trying to get microbes out of the air, and you spray something like a Lysol, which is liquid based, it's going to go in the air and you'll smell it for a little bit, but most of the particles are going to end up ultimately just dropping on the ground. And that doesn't do a whole lot of good unless, you know, all the virus just happens to be on the ground. And as we know, viruses and bacteria tend to sometimes, they're aerosol based and they will float in the air. So you want something that'll get into all the cracks and crevices. This is something that I learned when I was in extermination. If you're treating, you see how much smoke comes off of there. If you're treating for pests, and you know, you have something like roaches or fleas, you really want to get into the cracks and crevices of where they're at. That's the best way to do it, is use a smoke, because it gets in there, versus a liquid, which is, you know, gravity says it's just going to fall. But it looks like a big mess, and it kind of is. And if that's a smell that you don't like, because you have dragon's blood that you can do the same thing with, frankincense, myrrh. You can just scrape it off. It'll come out of there. Put it in the sand. Because it's a resin, it will bubble up and melt, which is why you end up with that big, messy, liquidy. Even the small residual is still going to smoke. Let it go for a couple minutes. The rest of that will come off, and that's how you can do a room. Now you can use copal, you can use frankincense, you can use dragon's blood, myrrh. Obviously, that one's a fairly common antimicrobial. They've been used for thousands of years specifically for this reason, to clear the air. Of course, back in the day, it was to get rid of demons and bad guys and all that, but more common uses today is to help, say, sanitize a room. Now, one of the more common incense that people use to remove that kind of stuff is white sage. And what I've done is I have some in a tub. We don't have any smudge sticks at this point, but you can get sage smudge sticks as long as they have real sage in them. And you can break up the small pieces and use these the same way if you don't have a smudge stick. The sage, it doesn't obviously melt because it is an actual plant, but it'll also do the same thing. Another one of those smells that I'm not a real big, huge fan of. To me, it kind of makes me think of dirty armpits, but, there's a lot of people that really swear by sage and they really love it. And, and I'm sure they have their reasons, but, when I smell it, I think somebody needs to use some deodorant, is my thought. But you can walk through the house and cover your whole house with this. Fill every room, with the smoke, and just kind of let it set for a while. Don't air it out or anything, because if you're trying to sanitize your air, you're going to want as much of this in the air as possible. For the most part, from what I understand, from all the studies that I've read, the smoke will not hurt people. If you're asthmatic, sure, it'll irritate your lungs a little bit, but they are antimicrobial, so whatever you happen to have in your body, if you're breathing this in, it will get into your bloodstream. And it has shown in studies and in other ways, history and anecdotal evidence, of course, that it does help to remove. I really got to get this out of here. This stuff really stinks. It does help to remove harmful byproducts and harmful microbes that harbor in your body. I'm going to throw some more copal back on there, because A, it doesn't smell bad, and B, it certainly smells better than dirty armpits. I know that's not the best selling tool, and that's just my own opinion. And look, there's a ton of people out there that just love the smell of sage. But put the copal on there. Put your any of your resins. They come in fine ground as well. You want to make sure that when you read the ingredients that's all it has in there. Because sometimes people will put fillers in there that aren't necessarily as good for you, especially if they're synthetic and man-made. You get plastics and things like that. It's certainly not good to smell. But you get the pure stuff, and you can take it and you can use that. The charcoal briquettes really aren't that expensive. They come in tubes like this. You can usually get them in bag of 10. They're all over the internet. We have them here at the store. They're easy to use, as you can see. If you are done with it and you don't want to use it, you can cover it up with the sand, and the sand will go ahead and smother that out. And just be advised, you're probably not going to be able to use it later once you've done that with it. But yeah, this whole front porch is covered with smoke. I'm sure my wife just loved that as she walked by. But yeah, that's how we go with how to use your incense. Now, why would you want to use your incense? That's another question. And we'll put the copal up here because it keeps messing with the camera. We have copal, right? And I did mention before that in other parts of the world, it's actually used as a bone cement because it helps prevent microbes from growing, and it kills infections. It's been shown to be effective against like staphylococcus and other types of bacteria that are commonly found in hospitals. It's antifungal. You can drink it as a tea. You could turn it into a poultice. You could use it if you have, say, athlete's foot. This is a really, really handy resin. It's really easy to use. You get it hot, it'll melt. It'll blend with tea. This is a good one. It's not very expensive. You can usually get it for about $1.50 an ounce, depending on where you go. And the little bit that I used there was less than a gram. So you have more than 28 doses or uses out of 1 ounce if you use it sparingly. If you're one of those kind of people that likes to not be able to see in your house and you have that much smoke, well, then it might not last that long. But it is, again, it is fairly easy to get. There's another one that's dragon's blood. You know, we have 2 different varieties. We have ground and we have bigger chunks. This is a very, very powerful herb, and a very, very powerful resin. And if you want to use this one straight, be advised, it is very, very pungent. It's a very strong one. Most people who like dragon's blood will try pure dragon's blood and burn it as an incense, and come to find out that they don't like dragon's blood nearly as much as they think they do, because it doesn't necessarily smell as good as some people feel. Now, it's good for skin. So if you have, say, saggy skin, or you've been wounded, it's good to heal that. You can make a poultice out of it. It does stain though, and like all the other resins we're going to talk about today, it's a really powerful antibacterial. It's a disinfectant. It kills viruses. It kills bacteria. It kills fungus. People who have a fungus condition typically have a ton of it inside. So if you were to take a dragon's blood extract, you'll find that would also help in conjunction with using anything topically. Now, the thing about dragon's blood, though, pure dragon's blood is actually quite spendy. This isn't one of your cheaper herbs like ours. $7.50 for a 1 ounce package, but it's pure dragon's blood. It's not dragon's blood with a filler. So it's processed much differently than any of the other resins, and I'll do a video about that, and then we'll talk about the different benefits of dragon's blood. Go on to some of the ones you may have heard of. We have frankincense. Yeah, that's the same frankincense that was given as a gift by the wise men years ago. It's been used for thousands of years for all the same reasons as the copal and the dragon's blood. It's native to the Middle East and that part of the world, Africa, and it has all the same properties. It's antimicrobial, it's antibacterial, it kills fungus. It's a good tea. It's a good poultice if you use for like wound healing. It really helps with all of that. This is a very sweet smelling incense. It's not, when it burns, or a resin, as it burns, real quick, I'll show you. It doesn't take too long for it to go away. I could take all that stuff and put back on there, but sorry for the interruption. All right, so where was I? Yeah, this one has a lot of properties as well. Again, it's one of the less expensive ones. This one goes for about $2.50 an ounce. And it's at one point it was worth its weight in gold. So we're not charging $1,500 an ounce for it. It's only $2.50. That's not bad. You can also use it in your toothpaste because it helps with like killing bacteria, gingivitis, stuff like that. It's really good for that. Some people combine frankincense with myrrh. We call this particular blend franken-myrrh just because it's easier for us to recommend. But myrrh is another one of the more common ingredients. And it has all the same antimicrobial. You can put it on a toothache if you have myrrh. Actually, any of the resins. If you have a chunk and you have a toothache, you can put the resin on the toothache, and it'll make that go away. We like myrrh so much that it's actually one of the one of the more important ingredients to a couple of our salves. We have our first aid salve and our black salve, and the reason why is because they're antiseptic and they do kill bacteria. So if you have the potential for getting an infection or whatever, this certainly helps to take care of that. And of course, last but not least is the white sage. White sage is, again, fairly inexpensive. You can get it for roughly $2.50 an ounce. There's an ounce. That's quite a bit. You break up just one of those leaves, you have dozens and dozens of uses for $2.50. That's not too bad. It comes out to what, 10 cents, 20 cents a use. So, it's good stuff as long as you get pure white sage and it doesn't have any fillers. So now that you've heard all of that, I've shown you how to use the incense and everything. I'm going to go through, and we're going to go through some real quick science because this has already been a rather lengthy video. Again, I really hope you guys share this because this could be very useful for a lot of people, especially now that there's a bunch of kids coming home from school. We certainly wouldn't want grandma to get sick. So anyway, stay tuned for just a moment. Let me get all this stuff put away, and we're going to pull up some science, and we'll go from there. Hang on. Alright, so we're finally back in the office, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up some science. Now, this video has been significantly longer than I thought it was going to be, so this part of it may be a little bit shorter than normal. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to run over some real quick stuff about Copal. Now, Copal resin was tested against the leading bone cement called Palacos R+G, and it was discovered that Copal eliminated more microbes, viruses, and bacteria than that particular product, and it promoted faster healing. Taken directly from the web, Palacos R+G is a fast-setting polymer that contains gentamicin, which is an extremely powerful antibiotic. And what they discovered when they tested the Copal resin versus this was that the Copal resin actually removed more biofilm and protected against bacterial infection better than this leading product. Now, for myself, that tells me that Copal should actually be the leading product versus that stuff. But, you know, unfortunately, living in the world we live in, you don't get a whole lot of profit from trees, apparently. Now, earlier in the video, I also stated that I would point out reasons why you shouldn't use hand sanitizers on a regular basis. Now, the first thing is it develops an antibiotic resistance. A hand sanitizer is that it kills both good and bad bacteria. And eventually, some of the bacteria and other microbes that we're trying to kill off actually get stronger and more resistant to the things we're using to kill them, meaning it doesn't kill them anymore, which has an adverse effect on your health and your children's health. Now, the point to that is good bacteria is essential for a strong immune system, and without it, your immune system suffers, and it suffers dramatically. Now, many studies have shown that trying to kill off all the bad microbes have the opposite effect of what we're trying to accomplish. And children's and teenagers' bodies actually become less able to defend against illness if you're killing off everything that your body is supposed to be developing antibodies for. So this doesn't really help if this is what you do on a daily basis. And this doesn't even begin to cover the adverse impact on your skin. I've always said that if you're not willing to put it in your mouth, then you probably shouldn't put it on your skin. And the reason why is because your skin absorbs everything that's on it and puts it directly into your body. This includes hand sanitizers. Now, hand sanitizers also dehydrate your skin. Now, your skin is your first form of defense against anything outside of your body because it's your largest organ. And you are doing yourself and your children a disservice by having you and them use hand sanitizer on a regular basis. There's a lot of other things that go in with this, and I've gone ahead and included a link to that particular article in the description section below. I have definitely overran my talk time today. I do apologize for the super lengthy video, but there was a lot of information to cover, and apparently I had plenty of time to cover it. If you did like this video, please consider giving it a like and a share, and if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our great content. I'm also going to go ahead and be posting maybe 2 or 3 more videos this week, and I'll try to crank them out so that way you guys can have all the information you've been starving for. And don't forget to share this video with other people because this could help somebody else. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch. Everybody take care from the Elder Herb Shop and the Herb Guy, and have a